Hi everyone, I'm Burgundy. Welcome to Yoga Talks. This month of June we are talking about and practicing mudras and pranayama or pranayam. The mudras that we'll be talking about and practicing tonight are mostly hand mudras. So hand mudras are gestures, and the idea of a mudra is to help with focus when you're meditating, when you're doing certain poses, when you're doing breathing exercises, which are pranayama, breath regulation. And the translation of pranayam is elongation of life. And so you can think of practicing breathing exercises as a way of improving your health, your lung capacity, your breathing ability. And the more you breathe, the more efficient you breathe, the better your breath, the more that oxygenates your blood, which therefore oxygenates your bones, your muscles, your brain, your all over body function improves with different breathing exercises. To begin with, the use of mudras can take many different forms. But I will start with the basics. Thumb represents the fire element. Your index finger represents air. Your middle finger is space or a vacuum. Your ring finger is earth, and your pinky finger is water. So putting these things together, there are different ways that you can use your fingers or your hand, and different alignment. This is Guyan Mudra, and we're going to talk about this one. The tips of your fingers, you are balancing those elements. So this would be the fire element and the air element being balanced by the tips of your fingers coming together. If you want to enhance a certain element or element inside your body, then you put your thumb to the base of that finger. So I'm better at this with my right hand. So for example, you might put your thumb to the base of the earth finger to suppress. So maybe you are overly energetic, you have too much of a certain element's quality going on, then you would put your finger to the base of it, to the base of the thumb, for example. So sort of easier one would be your pointer finger to the base of your thumb, and then your thumb holds that. Likewise. So hand mudras are not easy depending on the mudra that you're doing. And there are some that get quite pretzel-y as well. So you can see that you're working and you're exercising your hands, your fingers, and it takes intention and attention and mindfulness to continue to hold a mudra while you are doing, even the simple meditation. We see the wrists on the knees and the fingertips and the thumb tips meet. So this again is Guyan Mudra. This is probably the most well-known, you just may not know the name of it. And this is simply used for focus when you're meditating. And typically, so a lot of times you just see somebody holding their hands like this. The intention of the hand mudra is, again, for focus. And so you're looking for your fingers to actually be drawn in, and the rest of your fingers are lengthened and engaged. So imagine trying to meditate, for example, for minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, with maintaining this hand position. So you have to keep your mind connected, your brain connected to what your mudra is. And so you can see that's very simply how it helps promote focus. And that one you might see spelled a different ways. So there are many languages and different dialects in India. And so you might see this spelled DNYANA Mudra, or you might see it spelled GUYAN Mudra. Same thing, just a different language or a different dialect. This is bringing together the wind element and the fire element to create a more peaceful mind for focus. Another mudra that we use quite frequently in yoga here in the West, but this is used throughout India, is Anjali Mudra. It's just bringing your hands in prayer pose. And in Anjali Mudra, you're bringing all 5 elements together, and you're leaving a space in your palm, a space for filling up. There's a lot of significance. There are many different ways that you can think of the significance of the space that you leave in your palms. But primarily the idea is you're bringing all of these together. This is the harmony between all 5 elements in your body, your energetic body, your physical body, and it's symbolic of the harmony of the universe, truly. The idea is that this produces physical and emotional stability. It helps calm any sort of anxiety or agitation that you might have. And this is seen as the symbolism of yoga. And the word yoga in Sanskrit means union. And so bringing together of the elements of the connection between yourself and your higher power, your higher being, whatever that would be to you, this is the symbolism of it. This is also what you see frequently people using when they say namaste. In different areas of India do this in different ways. We see this frequently in the States. You know, we're saying namaste before class, after class, as a greeting. And so the meaning of namaste is deep. It's a sign of respect. There are many translations of this. It's hard to translate a concept. You know, how do you define love, right? So namaste, loosely meaning the spirit in me honors the spirit in you. So when I do Anjali Mudra and I say namaste or namaste, depending on where you are, that's a sign of respect. I'm saying that we are one. I respect you as somebody that is part of the same stuff. We are all made of the same stuff. And so I am no better than you. It's also seen as, you know, so when I say it at the end of class, my intention is I'm saying it to the students as a teacher. I am made a better teacher by my students. I am not a teacher without students. So it is a deep sign of respect for me at the end of class, and I usually forehead and I come down at the end of class. So appropriated from India, absolutely, and hopefully it's not seen as disrespectful. Another mudra that I would like to share, Ushakal Mudra. So this is a mudra that you do in the morning. And this I'm actually particularly excited to share because I have many students who are starting to run. I have students who are learning how to be morning people and do their yoga practice, their meditation, their asana, running, biking, whatever it is, in the morning. Biking to work. So if any of this sounds like something that you are attempting to add into your schedule, then this mudra can help. You are clasping your hands with your left thumb on top. You're making, so these fingers here, they do not complete the circle but they are creating a circle that is open. So you've got two circles there. I guess, what does that sort of look like? The Chanel? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it kind of looks like the Chanel logo to me. So now, what we have yet to talk about is mudras that you do for a certain amount of time. So the idea with some mudras, you just hold that mudra for the length of the pose or the pranayama, the breathing exercise, or whatever it is, or till you're done saying namaste, or you're done with your prayer. This pose, or this mudra, is intended to be done for 5 to 10 minutes first thing in the morning, facing east. I'm pointing east because that is in fact east to me. And you can do this. The joy of this one is you can have your body in any kind of position. It's the act of holding your hands in this position for 5 to 10 minutes, and you can be laying down in bed. So quite literally, first thing in the morning, you wake up. If you are trying to encourage your mind and your body to add in a morning practice of some sort, this hand mudra is said to be able to help you, to help encourage you to get into that sort of flow. So I'm gonna wake up in the days before I'm gonna start running. I'm just gonna sit in bed, lay in bed, and I'm gonna hold my hands like this, and for 5 or 10 minutes, that's what I'm gonna do. And you stay focused on this hand mudra. Simple as that. So here's my thought on all of these things. Don't knock it till you've tried it. You think that this is simple, you think that maybe this is silly, but trying to focus on the position itself, the hand position itself, for 5 to 10 minutes, first thing in the morning, what this is encouraging your mind to stay awake and stay present with this kind of a pose. So try it. Now, it's been said, and I've read this, that this pose will help to encourage you to wake up so much that this might replace your morning coffee. And specifically, it might replace your espresso. I'm just telling you what I read. And as we go through these next several videos after this, I'm going to share other mudras that I find particularly interesting and particularly helpful to those who are trying to add something more to their practice. So before I move on to pranayama, I just want to wrap up real quick on the mudras. So mudras themselves, for example, the Guyan Mudra of focus, and whether you have your fingers drawn in, when I meditate, sometimes I do try to bring my fingers in like this, because that really does help me stay focused. Because this is a challenge for me, because I want to relax my hands. Now, when I'm going into certain poses, specifically like a twist of some sort. So for example, let me get into this pose here. All right, so a pose like this, where maybe one arm is doing something and the other one is just holding me here, I'll bring my hand into Guyan Mudra so that I'm doing something with this hand. Because it's important for me in my practice to keep my mind connected to all parts of my body, even if they're not really doing something. So what they can do is be there to help me stay focused, right? And so frequently I do this where I feel like I'm engaging my fingers, they're extended, they're lengthened out, and I'm creating Guyan Mudra that way, right? So this helps me stay focused on something behind me. There are several other poses that I might do that as well. Even like the hand, I just reached out of focus, I'm sorry, or reached out of camera. So even when you're reaching your arm back, for example, in extended right angle or backwards warrior or something like that, maybe even bring your hand into Guyan Mudra that way, so that when you're reaching out, your hand is doing something. Okay, try those, and when you're doing your namaste, when you are doing your prayer pose, Anjali Mudra, think about what that means. You're making the connection, and I like to feel the connection of my own palms, the pads of my fingers. Sometimes after class, when we're doing our final closing prayer, if you want to put it that way, but the final closing thought, I like to encourage students to maybe see if you can feel your pulse in your hands as you're holding them together, or maybe even as you're holding your hands like this, can you feel your fingerprints? Okay, so you're just making a connection with yourself and recognizing the connection with all of the elements. So those are mudras. Again, we'll learn more later. I do want to take some time to talk about now pranayam. And the reason why I put mudras and pranayam together is because frequently we do breathing exercises and we have hand gestures, we have mudras at the same time, whether you recognize it or not. Breathing exercises, pranayam, can be physically challenging for you because many times you're using core muscles that you're not quite in tune with yet. Or maybe the pranayam is something that you're going to do for minutes. Maybe you start with 30 seconds, you go to a minute, and so forth, and you increase time. That can become challenging for you physically because maybe you're still working on sitting. Maybe you're still working on your core strength to help keep yourself upright or to even do the movements. So sometimes using hand mudras can help with your focus in doing this practice, your pranayam. Also, as we go into in some of the later, some of the upcoming videos, I should say, there will be specific hand movements that you do with your breathing exercise that are specific to what you're doing. So I'd like to talk about and practice pranayama with you. Pranayama, as I said, the idea of it is, or the translation of it is the elongation of life. You're technically practicing breath regulation. You're doing different exercises with your breath. There are two different concepts that I particularly like to focus on when I am doing a very focused breathing exercise. One is the feeling of being completely filled up and holding your breath like that and feeling the sensations of your lungs and your body when you hold the oxygen in. Because it's when you are breathing fully that your lungs get to absorb that oxygen and bring it into your bloodstream. That's how your blood gets oxygenated. It's through your lungs. Your lungs are taking the oxygen and pulling it through the membrane and into the blood vessels that bring it into your bloodstream. So that feeling can be quite visceral. You can really feel that, especially if you're used to breathing very shallow. Many of us do. Throughout the day, we don't really focus on taking deep, full breaths. And it can be heady. You can really feel a good deep breath all over your body and in your head and in your brain. So the opposite of that feeling is being completely empty. That's actually one of my favorite feelings when I'm doing my breathing exercises, is that feeling of completely at the end. And there is a word, it's called Richak, where you completely exhale all the way down to the bottom. And see how long you can hold it. Your breath is an interesting thing. So gravity plays a huge part in the way that you breathe. One thing to understand about gravity is that when you breathe, when you inhale, gravity is pulling the oxygen into your lungs. So inhaling is actually quite easy, and your body just sort of naturally does that inhale. So that's why a lot of times in some of these breathing exercises, the cue is for you to not even pay attention to the inhale because it takes care of itself. Gravity just does it. It's the exhales that become the focus a lot of times in these pranayam, where you're we'll practice Kapalabhati, for example, where you're pulling your belly button into your spine. It's a very forceful exhale. And the inhale takes care of itself because gravity is doing it. The primary kind of breathing that we do in just your average yoga class, group class, is diaphragmatic breath. And diaphragmatic breath can be quite different if you're not used to paying attention to your breath, number one, or if you're an athlete. So as an athlete, I'm a runner. I used to play volleyball, so on and so forth. I played basketball, but not very well. We don't talk about it much. But when you are an athlete and doing cardio, you breathe through your mouth and you try to find this nice rhythm where you're filling your lungs and all that. In a yoga class, you're specifically breathing through your nose. Now, so number one is you're breathing through your nose, but number two is the order in which you're using your belly and your ribs. So in diaphragmatic breathing, on your inhale, you allow your belly to expand, your ribs to expand, and your chest rises up just a little bit. On your exhale, your chest comes down, ribs come in, and your belly draws in. So that's the three-part breath. So sometimes we call it three-part diaphragmatic breath, and that's what we're talking about. So in your inhale, exhale, so if you do this breath very purposefully, you're going to feel how your belly draws in to create that exhale and push it out. And this is very different from your sort of natural breath where you might be breathing mostly in the upper part of your lungs, for example. Maybe your belly doesn't move at all when you breathe. So this is a whole different beast to what you might be used to. Another form of breath that you use during a yoga class is called Ujjayi. And Ujjayi breath is the diaphragmatic breath, but you're adding in the element of your constricted glottis muscle, in your voice box, your vocal cords. And so the Ujjayi breath, the constriction, helps to slow you down further and gives you something to focus on. The length of the breath and the sound of the breath. So this is Ujjayi breath. I'm going to bring the mic up a little bit closer so you can hear it. So that's Ujjayi breath. Let me get the mic out of my face. Ujjayi, you could hear that it's very slow. So when you're focusing on Ujjayi breath, or even your diaphragmatic breath, but Ujjayi specifically for me, that slowness, that's how long it takes me to move into a pose and move out of a pose. I move into Warrior One on my inhale, I move out of Warrior One on my exhale. So for me, my breath, when I'm really focusing on it and I'm not teaching and I'm doing it on my own, my breath can be sometimes 4 to 5 beats on my inhale and my exhale. And that is where yoga becomes more of a meditation, more of a relaxation. It helps you be mindful and present, because you're focusing on your breath and the slowness of it, the elongation of it. And that also makes your asana practice, your pose practice, more challenging when you're focusing on your breath. It warms you up. Breathing like that, you can't tell. I'm sweating just simply from doing that. Those 3 breaths of Ujjayi, that warmed up my body because I'm focusing on that. So that's Ujjayi. So we've talked about diaphragmatic breath, the 3-part breath, and Ujjayi breath. And the last one that I want to talk about is Kapalabhati. So I like to teach this a lot. This is a pranayama that can be done. This is it takes practice, okay? You can start with 30 seconds, just getting the rhythm of it. You can lengthen it out to several minutes. More advanced practitioners will go half an hour or an hour. I don't recommend that at first. Work up to that, okay? Kapalabhati especially, the majority of these pranayama exercises, these breathing exercises, we're gonna do in an easy seated position. Some of them we might do in a held pose. The more challenging breathing exercises we'll do in a held pose. But for the most part, we're gonna be seated because you're changing the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide in your bloodstream. This can sometimes cause euphoria, sparkles, things like that. And so you want to make sure that you are securely seated doing the majority of these. The practice itself is the breath and nothing else. Okay, so Kapalabhati, this one specifically is called Shining Skull because of the change in ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide creates little sparkles, shining skull. In Kapalabhati, we're focusing on the exhale. So I like to describe it as, imagine that you have a rope tied through your belly button, and there's a knot in your belly button, and somebody is behind you pulling on that rope, pulling it through your spine, okay? You're pulling your belly button in on your exhale. Your inhale takes care of itself. In Kapalabhati, this exercise, this breathing exercise is said to help burn excess fat. And you can see why, because you're using your core muscles very strongly. It is said to help create a healthy liver, likely because of the movement, but also because of the blood flow. And it is also said to help with allergies because you are forcefully exhaling out the things from your lungs, and also from your nose. So that may be why this is considered helpful for those with allergies. It is said to help people with asthma because it helps to build up your lung capacity, but primarily the strength of your lungs, and that's kind of what you're looking for. This also is said to give you a nice and interesting glow to your aura. So we'll see. I'll let you be the judge of your own aura there. Now, so Kapalabhati, we're going to start with 30 seconds. I'm looking at my clock over here. So we'll do this together. Take a deep inhale, fill your lungs, just practice. Exhale through your nose. Inhale. Exhale. Take a 3/4 inhale and pull your belly button in. Slow your breath. So that was just 30 seconds. So you can feel, I can already feel, I'm in a warm room, and I can feel the blood flow through my body. I can feel a little bit heady. And when I practice this, I usually start, and when I teach it, I start with about 30 seconds just for you to figure out how this actually works. And then I go into a minute and a half. Well, no, I'm sorry. First 30 seconds and then a minute, and then a minute and a half. And once you get into those longer durations, you start to feel your belly muscles, but also your back muscles engaging to keep you upright. Because when you're practicing these breathing exercises, you can't have a slouched back. You have to keep yourself upright. So, regarding that, if you have tight hips, or if when you sit, if your knees are up like this, then you need to sit on a bolster. And I'm gonna sit on this and my head's gonna go out of frame, so be it. The most important thing is for you to see what's happening in my hips. So when you sit higher, this gets your hips higher than your knees, so you can see that. And this allows you to sit a little bit taller, so you can at least see my torso in this. Your focus physically in any sort of breathing exercise is to keep length in your torso, and I like to make sure that my hip flexors are relaxed when I'm doing any sort of meditation, pranayam, anything where I'm sitting for long periods of time. So, Kapalabhati, shining skull, start with 30 seconds, watch the clock if you like, or you can count your breaths, and then slowly increase and see what it feels like. Always do it seated. So there you go. We've done several mudras and we've done a few pranayama exercises. Check out the upcoming videos where we'll do more through the month of June 2018. If you are interested in being part of this and practicing with me, come to the studio, Yoga Happiness Studio, Wednesdays at 7:30, and you can be part of this video or you can sit off to the side. If you enjoyed this video, please click like or subscribe. And please do check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/yoga happiness. A big shout out to my new supporters, Chris and Nancy. Thank you so much. They are helping to bring you these videos. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks, everyone. Namaste.